I have been in a Horus Heresy mood lately with the release of the new edition. After last week's video painting an Imperial Feast and tackling the challenge of painting yellow, today I'll be painting one of my favorite legions, the White Scars. And keeping with the theme, today's challenge will be to paint their iconic white armor. After using makeup sponges quite a bit lately as a replacement for an airbrush, today I decided to cheat a little and practice some airbrushing for a change. Though remember, everything I'm doing here can also be achieved with a sponge, as shown in my previous videos. Color-wise, I created a transition consisting of blue-gray pale, tech tan and ivory. I approached this model by breaking it down into basic shapes to place the highlights, mostly cylinders and spheres, and highlighted accordingly with a line highlight for the cylindrical forms and a circular highlight for the spherical ones. I recently released a beginner's guide to airbrushing covering everything from paint dilution to pressure control and spray distance to get you started. One thing I didn't cover, which came in handy today, was the adjustment knob on the Gaahleri Airbrush. It prevents me from pulling the needle back too far, allowing for a consistent and even spray. This, combined with this pressure adjustment knob, made the more detailed spraying more friendly to someone like me who is far from an expert with this tool. When working with white, the issue usually isn't building up the color itself, but rather shading it, since most washes will darken the white and force you to rebuild it all over again. For that I have a simple solution similar to last week's, but first I had to base coat everything else. This included the red trim and freehands, a few gold and silver details, and some gribblies like the pouches and the sword handle. Once everything was painted, the model still looked lifeless. Let's see if some shadows can help with that. For this I turned to oil paints, paint grey in this case. I first let the paint sit for a minute on a piece of cardboard so it could absorb the excess oil. Then I transferred it to an aluminum dish, and diluted it with some white spirits using a bit more solvent than paint. The solvent I'm using is the odorless type you can find in any art store, and it won't give you a headache like some hardware store options. Before applying the oil wash, I gave the model a coat of gloss varnish. While not strictly necessary, this helps the oil wash flow into the recesses more easily, stay away from the raised details or flat panels, and protects the paint underneath during cleanup. This amount of oil paint will take overnight to dry, but after just a few minutes, once the solvent has evaporated and the oils have lost some of their shine, you are good to clean up any excess paint that may have bled from the recesses. It is not the solvent itself, but the act of rubbing that can damage the acrylic paint. A brush moistened with solvent is more than enough to clean with, and should prevent you from running into any issues even if you don't varnish. Still, an eyeshadow applicator or a Q-tip are also valid tools, which due to their size have a hard time reaching into the recesses, so those areas stay safely shaded. Once the oils had dried the next morning, I gave the model a coat of matte varnish to unify the finish across all surfaces. With that, the model was already battle ready, but I wanted to take it further. I began working on some edge highlights for the white armor. While I had already pushed the base tone up to ivory with the airbrush, I didn't build up enough layers for the color to reach full opacity. So I went back to ivory and using the side of my brush I picked out the edges. For the red, I layered up from my nocturnal red base coat into scarlet red and finally dark vermilion, always using thin layers to avoid paint buildup or brush marks. And a quick tip for highlighting gold: add just a tiny bit of an off-white paint into it. Here I used the same base tone from the beginning, but mixed in a touch of ivory to create a pillar tone. This gave enough contrast for a proper highlight without the need to go out and buy a lighter gold paint. Thank you for watching till the end. I've been deep into Horus Heresy these past few videos, so if you are into that, there's plenty more to check out on the channel. Next week though, I'll be switching gears back to fantasy, so stay tuned for that, and I hope to see you in the next one.